Well, there's no doubt about it that the British Formula 3 Championship is, without doubt, one of the most competitive championships in the world. It's been that way since the early 80s when Ayrton Senna came over to Britain and began to ply his trade before he became a three-time Formula 1 world champion. Well, with me is Karun Chandhok, who is obviously chasing that same dream and doing the same as Ayrton did all those years ago. You're here in Brackley, and we've just seen the kind of competition you're up against. First of all, tell me about the championship itself.
The British Formula 3 Championship is the premier Formula 3 Championship in the world. You mentioned obviously Senna came up through British F3, but the likes of Hakkinen, Barrichello, Coulthard, D'Amata, Montoya, all the big names, Button, all the big names have come through this formula, and undoubtedly for any driver who wants to get to Formula 1, which is my aim obviously, this is the biggest stepping stone.
So who's the current crop you're up against? Some of the drivers that you perhaps know are already on their way to Formula 1?
Well, a lot of the drivers who I'm up against already, have had Formula 1 tests or have deals with Formula 1 teams. So, they are obviously the pick of the bunch for drivers on the way up. The likes of Danny Watts or Adam Carroll, Nelson Piquet Jr., obviously the big name. The son of three-time world champion. There's a lot of big names in the sport in the formula. So it is a very, very hard championship. If you're 2/10 off, you could be P9 or P10, and you're sort of thinking, well, 2/10 of a second, that's less than a blink of an eye, and you're 10th on the grid. So it's so competitive. But for sure, I think when you do a series like this, if you move onwards and upwards, it prepares you a lot better.
Now, of course, you've been a champion in Asia, but it couldn't be more different here. You've done one season in the scholarship class, but this is your first foray as a championship contender.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of an up-and-down season. We've struggled a little bit with consistency and speed in qualifying. We've been quite often we'll be very quick on the Friday test or the practice session before qualifying. Quite often in the top three. But for some reason we haven't been able to translate that speed into the qualifying sessions. The race pace is good and the races have always made up places, but unfortunately in F3, like in Formula 1, qualifying is very important. We think there are a few reasons why it doesn't come together, and we're working hard to address that, from this weekend at Oulton Park and for the rest of the season, so hopefully that'll start to come together.
Well, of course, the racing is a massively important thing. You have to get the results. But there are other aspects to motor racing and trying to get into Formula 1. And one of them is fitness. Perhaps a lot of people don't know just how fit motor racing drivers really are. They're like sprinters or tennis players. They have to do fitness all the time, and it's a massive part of trying to drive the car fast. Here's Karun in action as he tries to work out at his home in Brackley.
The gym I use in Brackley is quite nice. I've been going here now for the last 2 years, and they're really friendly people. And it's not a very big gym, but at the same time, there's not that many people in there. So I like it. It's almost it's like my private gym, and I use the back room. And I've got I put a lot of my own stuff in there, just because obviously a lot of the equipment is quite specialized again. Fitness in motorsport is very, very important. The more physically fit you are, the less mistakes you make in the race, in the car, and the more consistent you can be on a test day. And it just means that you can concentrate a lot better. If the weather's nice, I like coming out here to the lake or training outdoors. I love jogging out here. It's really it's quite nice. There's a lot of sort of specialized exercises that you do for motorsport. The main exercise really is for the neck, because the G-forces you face in Formula 3, we pull up to 3.5 G in the high-speed corners, which means your head weighs 3.5 times as much as it normally would. So you have to really strengthen your neck up quite a bit. And also it's important to do a lot of shoulder exercises as well, to get the shoulder strength and upper body strength. The other side of it is obviously you have to have good balance, because it's all about feel, it's all about balance, it's about driving the car on the limit, but you got to feel the limit and feel the grip. And for that, I do a lot of exercises with the medicine ball, or the exercise ball rather, and just to try and get your mind in tune with balance, balancing on the ball or doing push-ups on the ball. When you do the upper body strength, you do it with lightweight, because you don't need to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You don't need to be massive. It's all about muscle toning. I do some exercises which lightweights simulate with the steering wheel to try and simulate as much as possible what your body goes through in the car. In the off season, when I'm back in India, off season, I do a lot of swimming, and I train up to even 4.5 to 5 hours a day over the winter. During the season, a little bit less because you don't want to risk injury, obviously, and jeopardize your racing season. So you do maybe 3 or 3.5 hours a day. But it is a lot of hard work, but it's hard work that has to be done if you want to make it all the way to Formula 1.